All right, so we are a go and we are recording. All right, so I admitted a few more people. I'll continue to do that as I work through some information here with you all this morning. So again, thank you for tuning in on this rainy Friday. In the future, I will absolutely give more notice about these Friday meetings. But as we find our rhythm and get into the school year a little bit more, I know that we're all eager to see a little return to normalcy and some of the things we enjoyed. It's been our habit through the years to have time on Friday mornings to gather parents together, answer questions, but also present particular information that would be of interest to the group. And so that's what I want to do today. And we will make every effort to keep the consistency of first Friday of the month being a time to gather. And interestingly, as we went through remote learning last spring, come to find out it's a little easier for people to jump online during the workday or just from home and not necessarily have to make the drive to the Pine School campus. So anyway, we are happy to have you here with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the presentation. The first thing that I would love for us to do together is just look ahead as we, again, are here back in school, approaching the end of the first quarter. We definitely are eager to return to some of our favorite activities and events and a little bit of the normalcy we all know and enjoy during the academic year. The first thing I wanted to talk to you all about is our end of quarter coming up next Friday. That's October 9th, and it is a half day. We picked our calendar and scheduled some of these special days last year, even well before spring break. And, with a half day, what we typically do is run through all of our classes for 5th through 12th grade. And as we took a look at that day and that schedule with our middle and upper school teachers and thought about what might be the best for kids and teachers on that particular day, our teachers said, it would be easiest if we could just plan for remote learning. We probably have some kids who aren't going to come anyway, and maybe some requests that will come in for Pine at Home. And so for simplicity's sake, our teachers will plan that day expecting to meet students through Google Meet. However, students are welcome to be on campus. If they need to see a teacher, if they prefer to be in class or connected here, we're happy to have them. And we'll just see who shows up as far as how we might gather them or move them through the day. But most likely we'll just have them gather by grade level, bring some headphones in, and then if they need to run out and, during a study hall, connect with the teacher or turn some work in, they would absolutely be able to do that. But it actually saves us quite a bit of time and transition issues just to have kids tune in through Google Meet. And I think that the unexpected day of remote learning we had a few weeks ago with the power outage, it kind of changed things up a little bit. It kept our teachers sharp as far as being able to teach remotely. Want to make sure that we're prepared to do that if necessary. And so that's how we'll take that day. Of course, our lower school students, they will be here on campus for that half day. So kindergarten through 4th grade, we will look forward to seeing them. But for a half day, we don't serve lunch to students. And so you'll see some schedules coming out shortly from your division leaders about just the schedule for that day. We have that half day to give teachers more time to write progress reports. And so those report cards will be released at the end of the following week. Just as a reminder, we run on a semester system, and this is mostly relevant for 5th through 12th grade parents. We run on a semester system, so this report card is truly a progress report. It is a pause point, halfway point to check in. What's the progress been like? Where do these students need to head in the coming weeks as we move towards the end of the quarter in December, or the end of the semester in December? Other things coming up in our schedule, we will have a PSAT day that will be administered on October 14th. If memory serves me, I believe that is a Wednesday. It will be a regular school day for lower school and middle school, and we'll plan some special activities for our 9th grade that day. But 10th and 11th will be testing, and 12th grade will have some dedicated time to work on college applications with our college counselor, Janet Pacifico. As we close in on the end of October, we always look forward to some Halloween activities. And if you're new to the Pine School, I would offer to you that the Pine School does holidays in grand fashion, and Halloween is a fun one. So we definitely want to have our pumpkin carving contest. And we also look forward to having Halloween activities on October 30th. The week after that, we'll follow it up with parent-teacher conferences on November 3rd. We will have our next First Friday parent meeting on Friday, November 6th. Then, of course, November 7th is our virtual nights evening of celebration. That's a Saturday, and I will say a little bit more about that event in just a moment. And then the following Saturday, November 14th, we will be hosting an admissions open house. So, as we've looked at how to welcome guests to our campus, we decided that the easiest thing to do would be to have an open house on a day that is not, it's not a school day. So that therefore we're not having many guests come to campus when all of our students are here. So just some dates that are coming up. And of course, we will remind you of these as we get closer to all of them. So this is a little bit of a throwback to my first virtual meeting I had with parents back in late August. I still want to stress to you all how very much I want us to stay connected. And the first little point here I would offer you is to please reach out anytime. It's tough not being able to gather in the way that is typical for us at the Pine School. And so, if you've got a question, if you've got a concern, something that you just want to learn more about, please reach out. We love to hear from our parents and are happy to help in any way. And a phone call can be so much nicer than an email sometimes, especially if a conversation is going to be better than a back and forth correspondence. Hopefully you have seen emails coming from your grade liaisons, perhaps your lower school, you've had messages from your homeroom teachers or room parents. And then also you've been seeing regular communication from us, the nightly news. That's that Sunday newsletter that comes to you with highlights about dates up and coming, as well as usually like a little feature about something happening on campus. The middle school messenger is produced by our middle school director, Jonathan Tulliver, and I think we are two issues into the middle school messenger, so that's been nice to see. I'm also going to put a plug in here for our Facebook Pine School and Pine Parent groups. Even if you're not a Facebook user, just to join and connect with those would be great, because you'll get reminders about events and other things happening on campus. For instance, this virtual coffee was an event on the Pine School's Facebook page. And then also, again, a little flashback to late August. I'm still not done reminding you to please just welcome each other. I want us as adults here at the Pine School to set an example for how we would want our children to be reaching out and including new students, right? And so we can make an effort as we feel comfortable to welcome new families to the Pine School. If you happen to volunteer as an ambassador family for us, I know Mrs. Lettengarver wouldn't mind my saying that work can continue. And so just, be sure to look for ways to connect even when we can't all be here on campus together. So we are heading into the end of Q1, and we will soon be in Q2. And I want you to know that we at the Pine School are looking forward to finding some ways to continue to reopen. So, we're back here, we're in class. More and more of our students who had begun the year through Pine at Home have decided to rejoin us here for on-campus learning. And that's exciting. That's exciting to feel people in the community expressing confidence for what we're doing here at Pine and, being ready to send their kids back to on-campus learning. I just want to thank all of the families who have worked with the Pine School to prioritize health for the sake of our school community. I can't even tell you how grateful I've been for the open communication with our school nurse, for the cooperation when students have been sick and needed to spend some time at home. It's just been really, really appreciated. And we've got to keep going. We've got to keep doing that because even though COVID-19 and its presence in our community is falling from where it was a month or so ago, we just want to continue to be vigilant. We want to be healthy and well, and we want to remain here for our on-campus learning. When I look at changes that we can feel comfortable making for Q2, here are a few that I would highlight for you. We are working to begin middle school and upper school clubs and other activities. So already athletics are underway, and it is definitely time to add a little bit more of student life to our program here. So know that that is coming. I know in lower school, Mrs. Carlino is working to add some after school clubs. And so again, just, look forward to adding in a little bit of fun for the kids. I also want to let you know that Mr. Carlson will be sending out an update about Pine at Home. Pine at Home has been an awesome adventure for us here at the Pine School. It has been wonderful to have that flexibility for families, for students who need to be at home. And I don't want to lose that ability at Pine. I know for some families, it's going to make a lot of sense to plan for some time away. Maybe they've got a special trip to take or, a reason to be out of town for an extended period of time. And for us on the educational side, to be able to have students remain connected to class and not to have them fall so far behind, I think it's an awesome opportunity. What we have to figure out, a great way to navigate though, is how flexible can we be? How last minute can that choice to attend Pine at Home be? Today is actually a fascinating example. We have a few students who were in neighborhoods really impacted by this weather, and they had some flooded roads, and a parent or two reached out and said, "Oh, I don't want my young driver, driving in this weather right now. I'd like them to stay at home and just tune in through Google Meets to their classes." And what a really great option. At the same time, I'm also mindful of how difficult this can be for faculty to navigate, just on a case by case or sort of last minute basis. And so how do we strike a balance there between allowing for that flexibility, yet also, supporting our teachers who at the end of the day want to offer an awesome educational experience. And so, gosh, if they've got a quiz planned or had a worksheet that they haven't digitized yet, how do we not throw them off kilter? And so, again, I think that we will just lean into it and learn a little bit more, but know that Mr. Carlson will be asking for a little bit more notice when we've got a student who maybe long-term needs to participate in Pine at Home. So you can expect that update from him before too long. And again, thinking about second quarter as the time when we would maybe want to formalize a little bit of Pine at Home. We also are going to be welcoming back parent volunteers to help with specific tasks. And so here in Q2, I look forward to seeing parents here to help, perhaps running our school store in the morning or helping us decorate for Halloween and other holidays that are coming up. And I'm going to put a little etc. here. I know that we have gotten wonderful support from our parent volunteers. And so again, we'll ask them to follow the health screening and protocols we follow ourselves as adults on the Pine School campus. But, that's a great way that we can open up a little bit more. Mr. Hilton Green will be assigning lockers for students to use here, hopefully starting Q2, as soon as he can get that task done. And then Matt Sofarelli, our athletic director, along with his department, will lead us in our effort to welcome spectators back to the gym. And I'm going to say spectators back to the gym for games, most certainly. I know we're all eager to be fans in the stands, but also for events as we feel like we can still adhere to some social distancing practices and again start to slowly open our campus up. I just want to refer back again to that late August presentation I had with parents by division, and say that for me, that analogy about slowly putting gas on the accelerator, it's still holding. And so, I want you to know that I am committed to some forward movement, but at the same time, I think we'll be, cautious and prudent along the way. My main goal is for our community to stay healthy and well, and for our campus to remain open. So I'm also eager to get input from parents about how the school year opening has gone so far and things that would be important to you as we move forward here at the Pine School navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. So just know that that's coming, and certainly we'll have that to you before our next Friday morning coffee. All right, the next slide I want to show you is a little daunting. I'm gonna go for it though. So this is the most recent COVID-19 symptomatic decision tree that has come out from the Martin County Department of Health for use with the Martin County School District. I want to begin by saying that the Pine School is an independent school. And so, we are not bound to follow this decision tree that the Department of Health is using with the Martin County School District. However, this is a great document for Nurse Candace and I to refer to, or excuse me, for me and Nurse Candace to refer to, as situations come up. And so one of the things, or a couple of things I'd like to highlight for you as we, as we look at this document together, the top line here, this is interesting for us to look at when we've got kids who are sick. We have been navigating sick kids on school campuses, certainly ever since I've been working at them. And it happens, kids get colds, kids get runny noses, they get allergies, they get coughs and sore throats. And now we're approaching flu season. We might have some students get the flu. But as we look at this top line here, because COVID-19 is not at the same rate or occurrence rate in our community right now, we don't see a student who is sick or maybe has one or two symptoms that are on that long list of COVID-19 symptoms and assume they have COVID-19. In fact, what we assume is that they don't. They're sick with something else. And so we send them home. We always send sick kids home here at Pine. Then this last little guidance point here says they could return to school after being symptom-free for at least 24 hours without medication. There is a star there, and you can read at the bottom of this sheet, which I will post on our reopening plan page, to say that might change if the community transmission rate were to change. I would also offer to you that this is probably the main box where you will see Nurse Candace and I act a little bit more stringently with families here. I think we want to have every confidence that we have students coming back to school who are well and ready to be here. And then, some of these other decision tree lines talk about what to do if a student has been exposed to someone who's positive for COVID or someone who has symptoms and is waiting for a test. Another little track that I'm going to bring your attention to would be this green track, exposed to COVID-19 positive case. What's really frustrating is that this virus has a somewhat longer incubation period. And so we just can't know for a little while if someone who's been exposed to a person with COVID-19 would in fact develop it. And so it's great that we've got Pine at home. We can navigate that. Continuance of learning, should we have a student or a teacher or another employee who needs to be home and quarantining, but we really want to be sure that when people come back to the campus, that we are, and definitely feeling ready that they should be here and be back. And again, that's something that our nurse would work individually with families on. And at our discretion, we might ask for a little bit more clarity about ready to return to school than you would see in a public school. So again, I will post this document for you, but it's fresh off the press. I think this came to us maybe 2 days ago from the Martin County Department of Health, and we're happy to have it. COVID-19 is certainly an evolving and it's a disease that we're learning more and more about because it's so new, and it's great to have current information and to feel the support from our local health department. Okay, next I am going to talk a little bit about election 2020, and I'm so happy to see in the audience here our guest, Nat Osborne, but I'm going to just make a few points here and then I will take the presentation down so perhaps we can see Mr. Osborne. So election 2020, it is upon us. We are about a month out from our national election. Interestingly, looking back at 2016, I remember asking this question of Phyllis Parker. In November of 2016, I was still in San Diego at the school where I worked prior to coming to Pine. And an election day at that school in San Diego, it was quite an event. We had some really high emotions after the results of that election. And it was definitely a thing. Kids were talking about it. Teachers were talking about it. And I remember talking to Mrs. Parker and saying, so tell me, what's it like at the Pine School, post-election? And she was like, kind of crickets, kind of quiet. I think that this school community is incredibly respectful and polite about political views. And it comes, I'm sure, from the fact that it's a pretty evenly split community as far as like where that 2016 vote went to. So truly, when I look back at those election results, it was literally almost 50-50 Democrat versus Republican candidate. So here we are 4 years later, the election is upon us again, and it's really cool to see some civic interest among our students. Upper school students led a register to vote effort, so thank you to Sarah Volcani, Nia Einhoff, and Zoe Berry for helping with that a few weeks ago. And we have conferences on election day this year, so on that Tuesday, and we did that intentionally so that students who are interested in volunteering at the polls or participating would be able to. They won't miss a day of instruction. And of course, our faculty here at Pine are really eager to engage interested students and discuss the election and politics, but we want to do that in an academic way. And so to tell us a little bit more about that, Nat Osborne, the Pine School's History Department chair, is with us. And I think that we will enjoy just hearing him reflect a little bit on election 2020 and how we can use it as a touch point for learning. So I'm going to leave my presentation here, Mr. Osborne, and all right, can everyone see now? So I'm going to invite Mr. Osborne. He's off mute and here with me now. Good morning, Mr. Osborne. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. Am I coming through? Terrific.
Yeah, we've got some great thumbs up. I think everyone can hear us. And so, you know, you and I had a casual conversation about this topic in the lunchroom a few days ago, and I'm happy we can talk a little bit more about it with parents today. You know, what's really on my mind today is, you know, as we're watching everything unfold in our country with the election, there's a lot of intensity, a lot of emotions running high. And with that, I know some of our students have their interest really piqued. And so I guess I would want to know, you know, what opportunities this offers to Pine School students in their history classes. How does this come up and how can it be used?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. That's a terrific question. I am delighted to say that in our history classes, our driving principle is really making evidence-based claims. Historical thinking is really not just about history, but it's really about any field. And so, I mean, as you mentioned, you know, we have students of different political perspectives. Quite frankly, I don't think it would be that interesting if we didn't have different political perspectives around the table. Talking about interesting ideas with interesting people I enjoy spending time with is literally why I'm in this field. So, you know, to that extent, all opinions are welcome if they're informed. Sometimes there are bad discussions. And so when I tell people that a few of our humanities classrooms have a big discussion table, I think some people initially are suspicious because we've all been part of kind of vapid, uninteresting discussions in which people express opinions that are not sometimes worth expressing. Mm-hmm. But you know, I tell my students, you know, you're not quite entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to your informed opinion. I mean, no one's entitled to be ignorant. And so to that extent, as long as you're willing to ask the follow-up question of what makes you say that, everything's on the table. Feel free to you know, tell us what you think about, you know, whatever it is, the headlines of the day, or, you know, the uncomfortable debate a few nights ago, or whatever it might be. You know, these are all, you know, we are, if not an environment in which ideas are expressed, you know, like, what are we doing here?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think at the heart of any academic community is really that quest for, you know, for like fact-based or reality-based opinions. And, you know, I think for us to push students in class with, well, what makes you say that is spot on. And it's cool that you bring that phrase up. I remember hearing it a lot when I was at Project Zero at Harvard Graduate School of Education a few years ago. It's kind of a theme of theirs. Do you remember that too? What makes you say that? Yeah, so, you know, I've heard it in a lot of classrooms here at the Pine School, which is awesome. Do you ever think that students, feel like maybe they feel their opinions not being valued with that follow-up push? Does that ever happen?
You know, I suppose it probably has. I think, some of our students, a pretty small number, but I think
Yep.
some of them are coming from kind of white hot political, you know, dinner tables.
Yep.
And so to hear something other than agreement
Hmm.
is, that's kind of a bump to get over, to
Right.
recognize that, me personally, I don't take positions one way or the other.
Yep.
I am Switzerland when it comes to this sort of thing, as neutral as it comes. My role is not to tell students what to think, but rather to kind of structure an environment in which they can encounter ideas and do something intellectually responsible with it. You know,
Yeah.
I, here's kind of how I explain it to students. At the end of my class, I want them to be able to say, if it's a history class, but
Sure.
really any humanities class, you know, I can use evidence to build an account of what happened in the past.
Hmm.
The class for the most part is not me telling them a story, although I guess there are times when that happens. But really, we're taking difficult documents and we're going through the process of breaking them down and piecing them together until we can say something responsible together.
Yep.
Like they and I, we're kind of like, we're kind of like detectives trying to figure out what happened in the past. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so if a student comes in and just makes, some claim without supporting it, it's kind of like a prosecutor charging someone with a crime without evidence.
Yep. Yep. So to hold them to that, hold them to that, that threshold of evidence, I think is a really important thing to do. I know we've got parents here with students in all different grade levels on this call right now, and being a school that educates students from kindergarten through 12th grade, we have an opportunity to to have some themes that we carry forward throughout all the years of education. And I know, just as Jackie Brownie is teaching in her science classes in kindergarten through 5th grade, how do we collect data? How do we use evidence? And what do we learn from that? To know that that's a theme that continues forward into all the classes later for the, well, what makes you say that? I have to say, from my perspective, I think we're giving students an invaluable skill to say to them, hey, you're gonna have more people listen to you. You're gonna be able to better express yourself if you can do it in a thoughtful way, and do it with evidence. And maybe even to have an opinion that is based on a personal experience. That can be okay too. But I really appreciate your saying that all opinions are welcome, but students are going to be pushed to substantiate them. And I think that's exactly what we would all want to know is happening in classes here at the Pine School. Um, any other closing thoughts or comments as we head into the final month? I'm curious to know if you think we'll have a mock election here at the Pine School. Have students talked to you about that at all?
Yes, in fact, a couple of the senior girls you mentioned, Nia Einhoff and Sarah Belkani, kind of a continuation of their voter registration efforts, is they've started the process of planning out a mock election. It'll probably be Monday before election day, probably in
Mm-hmm.
a breeze way. And so, we intend to, have a go of it. We'll make it a fun event, and
Terrific.
everybody, yeah, we'll have a registration list and a I voted sticker, and we'll have a good time. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. We all look forward to that. So I'm looking at the clock now. It's 9:30, and I was hoping to keep this to half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. But before I do, I will just thank everyone again for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to stop the recording now.